an answer, find, and shade worksheet that's covering substitution. And substitution means that you're just replacing or changing a variable to something else. It could be another expression, could be another variable. Usually it's a number. And today we're just changing variables to numbers. We're substituting. It's kind of like when you have a substitute teacher. The substitute is replacing your teacher. This is a level 3 worksheet, so it's a little more difficult. But I think if you know your order of operations, it shouldn't be that hard. And this is an answer, find, and shade worksheet. Answer the problems, find the answers, and shade them in the picture. So let's look at problems 1 through 6. The directions say, find the value of each expression if g equals 24 and n equals 8. You might have heard of the word expression before, and also the word equation. An expression and an equation usually consist of variables and constants and some kind of operation. In other words, letters, numbers, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. The only difference between an expression and an equation is an equation has an equal sign, an expression does not have an equal sign. Do not make this difficult. An equation has an equal sign, an expression does not. And these are all expressions because they don't have an equal sign. And for problems 1 through 6, g equals 24 and n equals 8. So all we need to do is change all the g's to 24 and all the n's to 8. Here's an n right here. We change it to 8. Here's a g right here. We change it to 24. And once we substitute or change them, we solve the problem. And that's all we need to do for problems 1 through 6. Really quick, let's do problem 1 together. Well, we got parentheses here, so we need to do the parentheses first. And you have subtraction and addition. And since subtraction and addition are in the same family, you need to work from left to right. So subtraction comes first. Well, 18 minus 8 is 10 plus 10 inside parentheses, and that would equal 20. We have a subtraction sign, and we have this 2 and 24 next to each other. Well, you might think that's 224, but actually when you have a number next to a variable, it means multiplication. So this is 2 times 24, which gives us 48. And 48 minus 20 is 28. And that's it. You're done. Now we find all the 28s in the picture, and we shade them in. Hum-de-dum, where's the 28? 28, 28, 28, 28. There's one. So you just shade this in. Not as ugly as mine, but you would shade it in. Why don't you do problems 2 through 6 on your own? So press pause. When you're done, press play, and I'll go over the answers with you so you can check to make sure you're doing them correctly. See you in a bit. So welcome back. You just did problems 2 through 6 on your own. Now let's go over the answers and see how you did. All right, problem 2. We know n's going to equal 8. And g is going to equal 24. Now we solve. Well, order of operations, we need to do division first. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. We have 37 minus 2 plus 24. And again, addition and subtraction, the same family, so we need to work from left to right. And 37 minus 2 is 35. Plus 24 equals 59. And what you do is you find 59 in the picture, all of them, and shade them in. Problem 3, we have n equals 8, and g is going to equal 24. So we come down here, and we have n equals 8, and g equals 24. Just like the directions say up there. And we solve. So we have to do our parentheses first. 8 divided by 2 is 4, plus 3 plus 24 is 27, and 4 plus 27 is 31. Number 4, g is 24, and there is no n. Okay? And then remember, this isn't 324. This is 3 times 24 because it's a number next to a variable. We do parentheses first. 3 times 24. 3 times 4 is 12. Carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6. So that will be 72 minus 12 inside parentheses. Then we have divided by 5 plus 7. So then we do 72 minus 12, which is 60, divided by 5 plus 7. And 60 divided by 5 is 12 plus 7 equals 19. Number 5, we have G, which again equals 24. Again, we have no n, so we just have 24. We do division first before addition, order of operations. 24 divided by 3 is 8. We have a plus 5 there and a plus 9. And since it's all addition, order doesn't matter, so you can add whatever you want. Well, 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 5 is 22. And last one, number 6. Here we do have a G and an N. G is 24, and N is 8. And again, we have a number next to a variable, so we need to multiply. 4 times 24 is 96. Minus 4 times 8, which is 32. And if we subtract 96 from 32, we will get 64. All right, there's problems 1 through 6. Check your answers. If you made a mistake, fix them. Don't just leave them wrong, and don't just be copying off of me. Make sure you understand this, because sooner or later you're going to be tested on this. If you understand this stuff, you don't have to listen to me. Just do the worksheet on your own. If you still need help, stay with me and I'll help you some more. Let's take a look at 7 through 12. The directions say find the value of each expression if x equals 3, y equals 5, and z equals 4. So now we have 3 variables, and we got to make sure we don't get confused and start getting them mixed up. So make sure you got x equals 3, y equals 5, and z equals 4. Now, I'll help you with problem 7, and then you can try doing 8 through 12 on your own. Problem number 7. Problem number 7. Now, this one looks kind of difficult. It's actually really easy. Before we substitute, look at this. We have a y, a z, and an x on top, and we have an x and a y on the bottom of a division problem. Well, you should know that you can cancel or cross-cancel. Well, since I have a y on the top and a y on the bottom, just cross them out. I have an x on the top and an x on the bottom, just cross them out. And we can do this because it's all multiplication and division. And multiplication and division are the same family, so we can kind of do it really quick without any problems. So this actually just leaves us with z squared, or z to the second power. If we come over to the next part, wait a second, we got an x there and an x there, we can cross them out. We have a y there and a y there, we can cross them out. We have a z there and a z there, and we can cross them out. You see how I crossed out the same letter or the same variable on the top and the bottom. That's cross-canceling or cancellation. So all we're left is with this little y right here. And y squared is what we're left with. Well, now we have z, and z is 4, so 4 squared plus y, which y is 5 squared. Now, if you know your exponents, 4 to the second power just means 4 times 4. You see, the 2 tells us that we're going to have 2 4s, and all we do is multiply. Well, 4 times 4 is 16, and then we do the same thing with the 5. Since it's a second power, we have 2 5s, so we have 5 times 5. You see how I have 2 of them? And 5 times 5 is 25. I add this together, and I get 41. Why don't you give 8 through 12 a try? So press pause. When you're done, press play, and I will go over the answers with you. So how'd you do? Hope it went okay. Let's check out problem 8. Problem 8, you have y equals 5, so I'm just going to put a 5 right there. And you have x equals 3. I'm going to put a 3 right there. Well, we have to do parentheses first. 29 minus 3 is 26 plus 24, and that will give us 50. And then we still had the exponent over here, and 5 times 5 equals 25. So we have 25 plus 50, and that equals 75. Problem number 9. Oof. We have multiplication, parentheses, division, adding, subtracting. I think we have almost everything but exponents. All right, so we have z, which equals 4, and we have x, which equals 3. Now, again, this isn't 443. Since we have a number next to variables, this all means multiplication. So you have 4 times 4 times 3 there. And then we have a y down here, which is going to be 5. We have another y over here, so this is going to be 3 times, and y equals 5. Well, we do parentheses first. So let's just do this whole group right here. 4 times 4 times 3. 4 times 4 is 16 times 3 is, what is that, 48? So you're going to end up with 48 up on the top. And then we have 5 minus 2, which gives us 3. And this is all in parentheses. Then we have over here, we have plus. We can really quick multiply the 3 times 5, which is 15, plus 7. 48 divided by 3 is going to give us 16, plus 15, plus 7. Order doesn't matter, so I don't know. 7 plus 15 is 22, plus 16 is 38. So our answer is 38. Now, if we come back over here to problem number 10, we have, ooh la la, we have x to the 4th power. And x is going to be 3. So basically that's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which will give us 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. Or the easier way, you could have done 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 9 is 81. So this will give us 81. Minus z to the 2nd power, that means 4 times 4, which is 16. And then we have plus y to the 3rd power, and y is 5 times 5 times 5, because we have 3 of them, we multiply. 5 times 5 is 25, times 5 will give us 125. Then we have minus, and we have 8 times x, or 8 times, and what does x equal? 3. So that's going to give us 24. And what does z equal? Z is going to be 4. And we can just rewrite this really quick. We have 81 minus 16 plus 125. And 24 divided by 4 is going to be 6. Well, we work left to right because we got subtraction and addition. 81 minus 16 is going to give you 65. So this is now 65. Plus 125 will give us 190. Minus 6 will give us 184. Now, I know I did this kind of quickly, but again, we're just checking your answers. Hopefully you understand basically what we did. If you made a mistake, go back and fix it. You can always press pause anytime you want if I'm going too fast, okay? Let's look at problem number 11. Problem 11. Let me clear this up a little so we don't have so much on this paper. Problem 11. On problem 11, we have 6y, and y is going to be 5. So this is going to be 6 times 5. You have 7z. This is going to be 7 times 4. You have an x down here. X is going to be 3. And you have a y, and y is going to be 5. So if we put all this together, we end up with 12 plus 30 plus 28. And this is all going to be over 8 minus 3, which is 5, plus 5 is 10. Let's add the top together. We get 12 plus 30 is 42, plus 28 is 70 over 10. And all you can do is ask yourself how many 10s go into 70, which is 7. Or you could say 70 divided by 10, which is 7. So you get 7 there. Last one in this group, problem 12. Problem 12. Let me erase this stuff on the top really quick, again, so we don't get so confused. And problem 12, we have multiplication, parentheses, adding, subtracting, dividing. So let's put this together. We have y, so this is going to be 5 times 5. We have x, which is going to be 3. And we have 3z, which is going to be 3 times 4. Then we have 5 times x, which is going to be 5 times 3. Then we have 4, and y is 5. We have 3, parentheses, 5 times 5 is 25, minus 3, plus 3 times 4 is 12, and the parentheses, and this whole thing is going to be over 5 times 3 is 15, minus 4, minus 5. Since we have adding in here, we cannot be doing cross cancellation or canceling anything. We have to put this together really quick. So we're going to end up with 3 times. Oh, by the way, if you didn't know this, a number next to parentheses or a variable next to parentheses also means multiplication. So you've got a number next to a variable, variables next to each other, and a number or variable next to parentheses. All those mean multiplication. So we end up with 3 times, well, 25 minus 3 is 22, plus 12 is 34, and that's going to be over 15 minus 4, which is 11, and 11 minus 5 will give you 6. We can multiply the top really quick, but check it out. We have a 3 right here, and we have a 6 on the bottom. Well, we can cross cancel really quick and divide them both by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. Remember, whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So you end up now with 34 over 2, and basically you're saying 34 divided by 2, or how many 2's go into 34, which is 17. By the way, if you've forgotten how to do fractions into division, remember, you have 34 over 2. All I ever do is I push it over, so the 34 and the 2 fall over, and they land like this. And then I just build a little division house right there, and then I can just divide 34 by 2, and that's how I get 17. That's a quick way of remembering how to change a fraction to a long division problem. Just push it over, and as you push it over, you'll see that the 34 falls over here. See how it falls right there? And the 2 just stays right there. So you end up with 34 divided by 2. All right, so we've done those. Hopefully you've checked your answers. Hopefully you got them all right. If you didn't get them right, you can press pause, correct them, fix your mistakes, make sure you understand what you're doing. And let's look at the last set of problems, 13 through 18. Let me zoom out a little bit here. Actually, let me clean this up a little because it's getting kind of messy. So let me clean this up. Oh, some more over there. All right, we're all cleaned up, and it's nice and pretty. And we're looking at the last set, 13 through 18. The directions say, find the value of each expression if A equals 3/4, B equals 3/5, and C equals 1/4. We have fractions, and then we're going to have fractions in the problems and exponents. That's crazy! Let's look at problem 13 first, and then we'll go from there. Problem 13. You're going to have A is 3/4, and C is 1/4. And then over here, you're going to have A is 3/4 divided by B, which is 3/5, over C, which is 1/4. Let's do this one piece at a time. So over here, you have 3/4. And since it's a fraction, you can just write it divided by 1/4. And that's a lot easier to look at now. If you remember, dividing fractions, all you do is you write the 3/4, you change the division to multiplication, and you flip, or you take the reciprocal of 1/4. And if you flip 1/4, you're going to get 4/1. And we can cross cancel because we have a 4 on the top and the bottom. So we end up with 3/1, which equals 3. So that piece right here, this piece right here, equals 3. Now, let's take a look at the second piece. We have 3/4 divided by 3/5. Again, just change the division to multiplication and flip, or take the reciprocal of 3/5. So that's going to be 5/3. We can cross cancel the 3. Whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. That gives us 5/4. So now we have 5/4 over 1/4. And again, you can write it better so you can see it better this way. 5/4 divided by 1/4. You can take the reciprocal and multiply. So 5/4 change the division to multiplication. Flip the 1/4. So 4 is on the top and 1 is on the bottom. Cross cancel, and we end up with 5. So this group right here equals 5. So all we have left is 3 plus 5, which equals 8. I know I did mine kind of messy, so hopefully you did yours a little neater. But I'm just showing you how to solve these problems if you were struggling. So let's do this. Why don't you try doing problems 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 on your own? Now, I know these problems look a little difficult, but if you look closely, they're not as hard as they really look, especially problem 17. Think cross-cancel and see if you can figure out why 17 is a lot easier than it looks. But give 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 a try. Press pause. When you're done, press play, and we'll go over the problems, check your answers, and fix any mistakes. So we're working on problems 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Let's start with problem 14. And since space is a little tight up here, especially the way I'm writing, why don't we come down here where I rewrote the problem, and let me fill this in quickly for you. We have 20, and A equals 3/4. So we replace it with 3/4. B equals 3/5. So I replace B with 3/5. C equals 1/4. So I replace it with 1/4. And B equals, again, 3/5. So I substitute in 3/5. So our problem looks like this. And again, I got the numbers up here. A equals 3/4, B equals 3/5, and C equals 1/4. So we're back down here looking at the problem. And I already substituted all the numbers in for the variables. And we have parentheses, so we have to do whatever's in parentheses first. Well, since they're all adding, the order doesn't matter. And what I would do is I would combine all the numbers with common denominators first. So I'd put in 3/4 plus 1/4. So we can combine those. Then plus 3/5 plus 3/5. So our problem looks like this. Now you can combine 3/4 plus 1/4, which would equal 4/4. And combine 3/5 plus 3/5, which would be 6/5. Now, you might think, oh, I got to find a common denominator. But remember, 4/4 is actually 1. Just like 5/5 equals 1, 6/6 equals 1. They all equal 1. So basically, all you have is 20, parentheses, 1 plus 6/5. You can change 1 to 5/5, 5/5, because now you can add 6/5, and you'll have 20 times 11/5. Well, this is multiplication. We can cancel, so we can divide the bottom by 5 and the 20 by 5, and that will give us 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 5 divided by 5 is 1. So we end up with 4 times 11, which is 44, over 1, which equals 44. Let's take a look at problem 15. I wrote it down below to give us more space, so hopefully it'll be a little neater. And here it is right here. We have a plus b minus c in parentheses plus a minus b plus c in parentheses divided by b divided by 2. Let's separate this problem into pieces so we can better see how we're going to solve this. So I can write this piece of the problem over here, and this would be a equals 3/4 plus b, which equals 3/5, minus c, which is 1/4. Now, I know I've been telling you when you have adding and subtracting, they're part of the same family and you have to work from left to right. But what you can do is you can change this subtraction to an addition sign and add a negative here. And that way you have all addition and you can change the order. And this helps us because now we can combine the 3/4 and the negative 1/4 because they have common denominators. And we can put the 3/5 out here. So if we combine these two, we get 3/4 minus 1/4, or plus negative 1/4, which will give us 2/4, which actually equals 1/2, plus 3/5. So you end up with 1/2 plus 3/5, and we just find a common denominator now, which is 10. And you ask yourself, how did I change 2 to 10? And how did I change 5 to 10? Well, you change 2 to 10 by multiplying by 5, and whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So this becomes 5/10. How did I change 5 to 10? I multiplied by 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. This becomes 6/10, and it equals 11/10. So that little piece we just did equals 11/10. Then we have plus. And now we have this other piece over here, this a minus b plus c. I will do this over here so you can better see it. A equals 3/4 minus b, which equals 3/5, plus c, which equals 1/4. And I can do the same thing again. I can change the subtraction to an addition and add a negative. And now I can move the fractions around to help us add. So 3/4 plus 1/4, because they have common denominators, plus negative 3/5. 3/4 plus 1/4 is 4/4, and 4/4 equals 1. Remember, if you have the same number on top and the bottom, it equals 1. So 5/5 equals 1, 6/6 equals 1, b/b equals 1. They all equal 1. So you end up with 1 plus negative 3/5. You can make a common denominator of 5/5 because that equals 1, just changing the 1, the whole number, into a fraction, plus negative 3/5 equals 2/5. I put 2/5 over here. Let me erase this little piece right here. On the bottom, we have b, which equals 3/5 divided by 2. First off, let's take care of the top fractions. We have a common denominator of 10. So you have to ask yourself, how did I change 5 to 10? Well, I multiplied it by 2, which means I have to multiply the 2 by 2, which I get 4. If you bring that together, 11/10 plus 4/10 equals 15/10. Now down here, I have 3/5 divided by 2/1. You see how I just put a 1 on the bottom of the 2 to make it into a fraction? Now I can change that into multiplication to solve it really quick. I take the reciprocal of 2/1 or flip it. I get 1/2, which gives us 3/10. So this is 15/10 over 3/10. Now I'll rewrite it to make this look easier to see. This will be 15/10 divided by 3/10. I'll change it to a multiplication problem. So it'll be times, and I flipped it 3/10 to 10/3. I cross cancel, or just cancel out the 10s, and I can divide the 3 and the 15 by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. The only thing left is 5/1, which equals 5. Now, problem 16. I wrote problem 16 down here really quick so it'd be a little easier to see and not so messy. So we have 2b parentheses a squared minus c squared, end of parentheses, parentheses again, 2 divided by b, parentheses. So what we're going to do is we're going to substitute all the numbers in for the variables, and we have 2, parentheses, and b is going to be 3/5. Then we have parentheses, and parentheses again. A squared, I'm going to put the a squared in parentheses so you know you're going to square the entire fraction, which is 3/4, and that's going to be the second power, minus, I'm going to put parentheses around the fraction for c too, because 1/4, and I want to make sure you understand you got to take all of it to the second power, and that's going to be times 2 divided by b, which is 3/5. And there we go. Now, I'll do what's in the middle first in the parentheses because there's a subtraction sign in there and I don't want to get confused. So we end up with 3/4 to the second power, which would be 3/4 times 3/4. And we just multiply straight across, 3 times 3 and 4 times 4. 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16. Then we get the 1/4, and 1/4 times 1/4 because it's the second power. Multiply straight across, you'll end up with 1/16. End of parentheses, and you end up with 2 divided by 3/5. Let's really quick change this division to multiplication and take the reciprocal or flip the 3/5 to 5/3. That way we can see that really quick too, and it'll be a little easier to look at. So now we end up with 2 parentheses 3/5 parentheses again. Now 9/16 minus 1/16 is actually going to equal 8/16. And if you think about it for a second, 8/16, if you simplify it, equals 1/2. So you get 1/2 there. And now you end up with 2 times 5/3. You can change 2 into a fraction, 2/1. So you just multiply straight across, you get 10/3. So we end up with 10/3 there. Now, we have two choices here. We can multiply it all out and simplify, or we can cross cancel or cancel everything out before we even multiply. I like to cancel things out to make it a little easier. We can change this 2 to a 2/1, same exact thing, and then we can start crossing things out. Look, I got a 2 on the bottom, I got a 2 on the top, gone. I got a 3 on the bottom, I got a 3 on the top, gone. Well, I got a 5 and a 10. Well, I can divide them both by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. Well, what do we have left? Basically nothing. 2/1, which equals 2. Now, you might say, what'd you do there? That was crazy. Well, if you don't get it, you can always multiply the long way. And what you could do is just say 2 times 3 is 6, times 10 is 60. On the bottom, 1 times 5 times 2 is 10, times 3 is 30. So you end up with 60/30, and if you simplify it, you get 2. You get the same exact answer. I was just trying to show you a shortcut so you can cancel really quick so you don't have to multiply bigger numbers. And this really saves you time later on in math. So I hope you got it. If not, it's okay right now, just multiply. It might take you a little longer, but you'll get the same answer. All right, let's move up to problem 17. Now you might be thinking, oh my, this is too much. I can't do it anymore. Well, 17 is really easy. Remember I told you, if you had a fraction like 3/3, it's the same thing as 1. Or 5/5 equals 1. Well, check it out. This is a squared minus b squared over a squared minus b squared. They're exactly the same, so this is just 1. Plus 8 over, and what does c equal? 1/4. And really quick, if I rewrite this, 8 divided by 1/4, we can put a 1 underneath the 8 just to make it look like a fraction. So we end up with 8/1, change the division to multiplication, take the reciprocal or flip the 4/1, and we get 32/1, which is the same thing as 32. So we end up with 1 plus 32 is 33. Woohoo! That was fast. Last problem, problem number 18. All right, we have 4, and we have parentheses, and we have a. A is going to be 3/4, and this is to the second power, which means we're going to do 3/4 times 3/4 plus 5, and we get b, and b equals 3/5. That is also to the second power, so we're going to do 3/5 times 3/5, and then we get bc, which is multiplication, so we get b, which is 3/5, and we're going to multiply that by c, which is 1/4. So before we start, let's take those fractions to the second power. So we end up with 3/4 times 3/4. And by now, I think you should get it really quick. We end up with 4 times 9 over 16, because I just multiplied really quick, plus 5. And we end up with 3/5 times 3/5, which is going to be 9 again, over 25. And that's all going to be over 3/5. You know what? Matter of fact, why don't we just multiply that real quick? Just save us some time, so I don't have to keep on writing that. That's going to be 3/5 times 1/4, which is going to be 3/20. Let's scoot down a little bit. So this is what we end up with now. We have 4 times 9/16. Well, we can cross cancel this really quick and divide them both by 4. This is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. We can do the same thing here. Divide them both by 5 this time. And 5 divided by 5 is 1. And 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see how I just divided the top and bottom by the same number. As long as you do the same thing to the top and the bottom, it's okay with fractions and multiplication. So we end up with 9/4 plus 9/5 all over 3/20. Well, we got to find a common denominator for the 4 and the 5, which is going to be 20. So we can change the 4 to 20 and change the 5 to 20. How did you change the 4 to 20? Well, I multiplied it by 5. So we multiply the 9 by 5, and 5 times 9 is 45. And how did I change the 5 to 20? Well, I multiplied it by 4. 9 times 4 is 36. If we put all that together, we end up with 81 over 20. Remember, you don't add the denominator, the bottom numbers. You just use the common denominator and bring it straight across. So that is over 3/20. Now we can rewrite this problem so it's a little easier to see. We end up 81 over 20 divided by 3/20. Well, you can't divide, so you're going to have to change division to multiplication. And we're going to flip the 3/20 to 20/3. We can quickly cross cancel the 20s. Same thing on the top and the bottom. You can divide 81 by 3 because 8 plus 1 is 9. And 9 is divisible by 3, which means 81 is divisible by 3. So you can cross out the 3, change the 1. And 81 divided by 3 is 27. So our final answer is 27 over 1, or 27. By the way, again, if you didn't know this, and you were doing 81 over 3, because you didn't know you could divide it, you could always push it over. You end up with 81 over here, and you end up with 3 right there. You can make a little house. 3 goes into 8 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. You can subtract. You get 2. Bring down the 1. 3 goes into 21 7 times. You subtract. You get 0. And we still got our 27. Well, I know it was a little messy. Maybe I went a little too fast. If I was going too slow, that's perfectly fine. But if I was going too fast, you're a little confused, you can always go back and watch it again. You can press pause and write down what I wrote down. Make sure your worksheet looks correct. Make sure you understand it. Remember, you're probably going to be tested on this. So don't just say, oh, forget about it. Well, I hope I helped you, and see you next time. Bye-bye.